For 12 years, Scarlett Voss believed she had already lived through the hardest moment of her life. The day her father disappeared had divided her world into two parts. The life she had before losing him and the empty years that followed. Everyone around her accepted the official story. Nathaniel Voss was gone. His name belonged to the past. His memory belonged to old photographs and forgotten family stories. But Scarlett always felt that something about his disappearance was wrong. Her father had never been the kind of man who simply vanished. Nathaniel was careful, organized, and always prepared for the unexpected. He had taught Scarlett that every decision had a reason, every action had a consequence, and every secret had a purpose. Yet the greatest mystery of his life remained unanswered. Why did a man who planned everything leave behind no clear explanation? The world saw Nathaniel as a successful businessman who kept a quiet life away from attention. Scarlett saw him as the father who made ordinary moments feel meaningful. She remembered his patience, his wisdom, and the way he always seemed to know when something was about to go wrong. But as she grew older, she began noticing small details that did not fit the story she had been given. There were missing records connected to his final years. People who once worked with him suddenly refused to mention his name. Old friends disappeared from her life without explanation. Even family members avoided discussing the circumstances surrounding his death. The most painful truth was not that Scarlett lost her father. It was that she never understood what she had actually lost. The deepest wounds are not created by goodbye. They are created by unanswered questions that refuse to disappear. Years later, while organizing old family belongings, Scarlett discovered a hidden box that had been untouched since her father's disappearance. Inside were documents, photographs, and a small metal key with a symbol she had never seen before. The discovery should have brought closure, but instead, it opened a door to a world she never knew existed. The documents showed connections between Nathaniel and people with powerful backgrounds. Names appeared that Scarlett recognized from news reports and rumors. Wealthy businessmen, influential figures, men connected to an underground world that existed beyond ordinary society. For the first time, Scarlett questioned whether her father had truly been the man she thought she knew. The search for answers led her toward a name that appeared again and again in the hidden records. Dominic Ravello. Across America, Dominic was known as a man who controlled one of the most powerful criminal organizations in the country. His reputation was built on fear, loyalty, and absolute control. He was the kind of person people avoided speaking about openly. Yet, one detail confused Scarlett more than anything else. Every record connected to Dominic Ravello eventually led back to Nathaniel Voss. The man she had spent years mourning seemed to have a connection with the most dangerous person she had ever heard of. Scarlett had spent years believing her father was a victim of circumstances. Now, she was beginning to wonder if he had been hiding an entirely different life. And before she could uncover the truth, she received the first warning that someone powerful knew she had started searching. The message contained only one sentence, but it changed everything. Her father was not the man she thought he was. The name Dominic Ravello carried a different meaning depending on who spoke it. To some, he was a ruthless businessman with influence that reached places ordinary people never saw. To others, he was a shadow behind an empire built through loyalty, fear, and absolute discipline. For years, Dominic had been considered untouchable. He had survived betrayals, rival organizations, and enemies who wanted to destroy everything he built. His reputation was not created by rumors alone. It was built by the respect and fear of people who understood exactly how powerful he was. But there was one thing that confused everyone who knew Dominic Ravello. The most powerful man in the room still respected someone who was supposedly gone. Nathaniel Voss. Sometimes the greatest secret is not the person hiding in the shadows, but the person powerful people still choose to obey after everyone else has forgotten their name. When Scarlett Voss entered Dominic's world, she expected danger. She expected lies. She expected someone like him to dismiss her questions and protect his own interests. Instead, she noticed something unexpected. Dominic did not look at her like a stranger searching for answers. He looked at her like someone carrying a responsibility he had been waiting years to fulfill. That realization disturbed Scarlett more than any threat could have. The Mafia boss who controlled an entire network seemed less interested in controlling her and more interested in protecting something connected to her father. But Dominic revealed very little. He understood that some truths were dangerous when discovered too quickly. Nathaniel Voss had built his life around protecting people from information they were not ready to handle. Dominic had followed those same rules for years. The more Scarlett investigated, the more impossible the situation became. Her father was not remembered as a forgotten businessman. Among certain circles, his name carried a different weight. People who had never met Nathaniel still spoke about him with respect. Older members of Dominic's organization treated his name like a symbol of authority. Scarlett struggled to understand how the father she remembered from childhood could also be connected to a world she barely understood. The man who helped with homework and comforted her during difficult moments had another identity hidden beneath the surface. Dominic eventually revealed that Nathaniel was the person who created the foundation of the empire before disappearing. He was not someone who followed the criminal world. He was someone who controlled it. But that revelation created a bigger question. Why would a man with that much power abandon everything? Why would someone like Nathaniel Voss allow the world to believe he was dead? Scarlett began searching through Dominic's old records and discovered that her father's disappearance happened during a period of chaos. Several powerful figures had attempted to take control after Nathaniel vanished. Someone wanted his position. Someone wanted his influence. Someone wanted his secrets. And according to Dominic, that person had never stopped looking for what Nathaniel left behind. The discovery changed Scarlett's understanding of her father forever. She was no longer searching for a lost parent. She was searching for the truth behind a hidden empire. But before Scarlett could uncover the full story, Dominic revealed the one fact that would completely change her perception of Nathaniel Voss. Her father was not the man who escaped from danger. He was the man danger was created to destroy. For Scarlett Voss, discovering that her father had connections to Dominic Ravello was only the beginning. The truth she uncovered did not answer her questions. It created hundreds of new ones. The man she remembered as a quiet father with a simple life had apparently been connected to a world built on power, loyalty, and secrets. Every new piece of information revealed another layer of Nathaniel Voss that Scarlett never knew existed. She had spent years wondering why her father disappeared. Now she was beginning to understand that the real mystery was not where he went. It was who he had been before he vanished. The most shocking discoveries are not the ones that reveal strangers are dangerous. They are the ones that reveal the people we loved were carrying entire worlds we never saw. With Dominic's guidance, Scarlett traveled to one of Nathaniel's forgotten properties hidden away from the public eye. It was not a place that appeared on maps or attracted attention. Surrounded by mountains and dense forests, the old estate looked abandoned, as if time itself had forgotten it. But inside the wooden structure, Scarlett found evidence that proved her father's life had been far more complicated than anyone admitted. Hidden rooms contained documents, photographs, and records that connected Nathaniel to powerful figures across the country. The files showed years of decisions, agreements, and relationships that shaped an empire operating far beyond ordinary business. Scarlett expected to find evidence of crime. Instead, she found evidence of influence. Nathaniel had built a network based on loyalty and protection. He had created rules that even Dominic Ravello continued to follow years later. Unlike the criminal Scarlett imagined, Nathaniel's power came from his ability to unite people who normally would have destroyed each other. But there was one problem. A person with that much influence always creates enemies. The records revealed that Nathaniel's disappearance happened during a dangerous period. Several members of the organization believed they deserved control. Some wanted more power. Others wanted revenge. Among the names mentioned repeatedly was Victor Hallstrom. Victor had once been considered one of Nathaniel's closest allies. He understood the organization better than almost anyone. He knew its weaknesses, its secrets, and the people who could be manipulated. The document suggested that Victor's ambition grew stronger as Nathaniel became more focused on leaving the dangerous world behind. Scarlett struggled with the reality in front of her. Her father had not simply walked away from a dangerous life. He had tried to protect everyone from a war that was already beginning. The discovery forced her to rethink every memory she had of him. The late-night phone calls she never understood. The sudden trips he never explained. the moments when he seemed worried but refused to say why. Those were not signs of a distant father. They were signs of a man trying to keep a dangerous world away from his daughter. But one final document inside the hidden estate changed everything. It was a report created shortly before Nathaniel disappeared. And at the top of the page was a warning that revealed someone inside his own circle had betrayed him. The person responsible was someone Scarlett never expected. The discovery of Victor Hallstrom's name changed the direction of Scarlett Voss's search forever. Until that moment, she believed her father's disappearance was a mystery caused by outside enemies. She imagined strangers chasing power and trying to destroy a man they feared. But the truth was far more painful. The person who helped bring Nathaniel Voss down was someone who once stood beside him, someone who knew his plans, someone who understood his weaknesses, someone he trusted. The most dangerous betrayal is not committed by an enemy who hates you. It is committed by someone who knows exactly how much your trust means. Victor Hallstrom had not started as a villain. Years earlier, he was one of Nathaniel's most valuable people. He understood the organization structure and helped manage the complicated relationships that kept the empire stable. To outsiders, Victor appeared loyal. To Nathaniel, he appeared like family. But power has a way of changing people. As Nathaniel began planning his exit from the dangerous world he had created, Victor saw an opportunity. He believed the empire belonged to him. He believed Nathaniel's decision to disappear was weakness rather than sacrifice. The record Scarlett discovered showed a pattern of hidden moves, private meetings, secret agreements, people changing their loyalty overnight. Victor had slowly built his own support system while pretending to protect Nathaniel's vision. Scarlett struggled to accept what she was learning. Her father had spent years protecting people who eventually turned against him. He had created a world based on loyalty, yet the person closest to him had been preparing to destroy everything. Dominic Ravello had known the truth for years. That was the part Scarlett found hardest to understand. Why did Dominic stay silent? Why did he allow the world to believe Nathaniel was gone? Why did he protect the secret instead of exposing Victor? The answer was connected to the final moments before Nathaniel disappeared. Dominic knew that revealing the truth too early would have placed Scarlett in danger. Victor was not only interested in controlling the empire, he was searching for something Nathaniel had hidden before leaving. Something valuable enough to start a war. As Scarlett continued uncovering her father's past, she realized Victor was not afraid of her discovering who Nathaniel was. He was afraid of what Nathaniel had left behind. The more Scarlett learned, the more she understood that her father's disappearance was not a random event. It was a carefully planned move. Nathaniel had known someone would betray him. He had known enemies would come. And he had prepared a final message for the one person he trusted more than anyone else, his daughter. But before Scarlett could discover what that message contained, Victor made his first move. After years of hiding in the background, he finally stepped forward and claimed that Nathaniel Voss was not the hero everyone believed him to be. He promised to reveal the truth about Scarlett's father to the entire world. And if Victor succeeded, the legacy Nathaniel spent his life protecting would disappear forever. Victor Hallstrom's threat forced Scarlett Voss to face the most difficult question of her life. She had spent years searching for the truth about her father, but now she had to consider something far more dangerous. What if the truth changed everything she believed? For most of her life, Scarlett thought Nathaniel's greatest failure was leaving her behind. She believed his disappearance created a wound that time could never fully heal. But the deeper she entered his hidden world, the more she realized that her father's absence may have been the greatest sacrifice he ever made. Nathaniel had not disappeared because he wanted to escape. He disappeared because someone needed to survive. The greatest acts of love are sometimes hidden behind choices that look like betrayal until the truth finally comes to light. Inside the hidden estate, Scarlett discovered another layer of her father's plan. Unlike the other documents she found, this file was different. It was not about business, power, or the empire he built. It was personal. Nathaniel had prepared information specifically for Scarlett. He knew there would come a day when she would search for answers. He knew curiosity would eventually lead her to the truth. More importantly, he knew that the wrong people finding those answers first could destroy everything. The message revealed that Nathaniel had spent years preparing for a possible betrayal. He had created a system where important information would remain hidden until the right person discovered it. That person was Scarlett. The realization overwhelmed her because it changed the way she viewed her entire past. Every unexplained moment suddenly had a different meaning. The father who seemed distant had actually been watching from a distance. The father who disappeared had been protecting her. The father who left no explanation had created a path for her to discover the truth when she was strong enough to handle it. Dominic Ravello helped Scarlett understand the importance of what Nathaniel had created. He explained through his actions that Nathaniel never cared about power alone. His greatest concern was preventing the Empire from becoming something controlled only by greed and violence. That was why Victor wanted Nathaniel's final plan. It was not just about money. It was about control. Whoever possessed Nathaniel's hidden information could reshape the entire organization. Scarlett began to understand why Victor had spent years searching. He did not fear Nathaniel returning. He feared Nathaniel's daughter discovering what her father had left behind. As Scarlett followed the final clues, she uncovered references to a location that had never appeared in any official record. It was the last place Nathaniel had visited before disappearing, a place connected to the final decision that changed his life. But the closer Scarlett came to finding the answer, the more dangerous the situation became. Victor's people were watching her movements. Old alliances were breaking apart. Even members of Dominic's organization began questioning whether Scarlett could handle the responsibility her father left behind. Yet Scarlett continued forward. She was no longer searching only for answers. She was searching for the reason her father sacrificed everything. And hidden inside Nathaniel's final instructions was one warning that changed the entire mission. The truth about his disappearance was buried in the one place where his enemies believed no one would ever look. The final clue left by Nathaniel Voss led Scarlett into the most dangerous part of her journey. For years, his enemies believed his secrets had disappeared with him. They believed his empire would eventually collapse without its founder. They were wrong. Nathaniel had planned for the possibility that everything he built would one day be threatened. He had created a final safeguard, not for himself, but for the people who would be left behind. And now Scarlett was standing at the center of it. The quiet life she once knew was gone. The questions that haunted her for years had finally brought her face to face with a world filled with hidden power, broken loyalty, and unfinished battles. The hardest battles are not fought against enemies who want to destroy you. They are fought against the truth that forces you to become someone you never expected to be. The location Nathaniel chose was far away from the public eye, an isolated property surrounded by harsh weather and endless wilderness, a place where secrets could survive without being discovered. Inside the old structure, Scarlett found the final pieces of her father's plan. They revealed that Nathaniel had predicted Victor's betrayal long before it happened. He knew ambition could destroy loyalty, and he knew the organization could fall into the wrong hands if nobody protected its original purpose. But the discovery came with a difficult realization. Nathaniel had not created this plan for Dominic. He had created it for Scarlett. He knew Dominic was powerful. He knew his closest allies were capable. But he also knew that everyone inside the organization was connected to the old world. Scarlett was the only person who could look at the Empire without being controlled by its history. That was why Nathaniel trusted her. Not because she understood the criminal world, because she did not belong to it. Meanwhile, Victor Hallstrom moved quickly. He understood that Scarlett finding the truth meant losing everything he had spent years building. He began turning former allies against Dominic and spreading his own version of Nathaniel's story. He wanted the world to believe Nathaniel was a selfish man who abandoned everyone when things became difficult. But Scarlett discovered something different. Nathaniel had given up his power to protect people who would never know the sacrifice he made. The Empire was never about control. It was about preventing chaos. As tensions reached their highest point, Dominic made a decision that surprised everyone. After years of keeping Nathaniel's secrets, he finally stood beside Scarlett openly. He was no longer protecting a memory. He was protecting the daughter of the man he once followed. The conflict that had been hidden for years was finally coming into the open. Old enemies returned. Former allies chose sides. And the future of Nathaniel Voss's legacy depended on one person who never wanted anything to do with that world, Scarlett. But just as she prepared to reveal Nathaniel's final truth, she discovered one last piece of information hidden inside the documents. A message that suggested her father's disappearance was not only about protecting her, it was about protecting her from someone much closer than she ever imagined. For years, Scarlett Voss believed her father's disappearance was the moment her family story ended. She believed Nathaniel Voss had been taken away by circumstances beyond his control, leaving behind nothing but memories and unanswered questions. But standing in front of the truth he had hidden for so long, Scarlett finally understood something that changed everything. Her father had not disappeared from her life because he stopped caring. He disappeared because caring was exactly what made him vulnerable. The most powerful revelations are not the ones that expose someone's secrets. They are the ones that reveal the sacrifices people made while hiding those secrets. The final documents revealed the complete story behind Nathaniel's disappearance. Years earlier, Nathaniel discovered that someone inside his organization was preparing to destroy everything he had built. He knew that exposing betrayal immediately would create a war that innocent people could not survive. The person behind the plan had influence, patience, and access to information that made them dangerous. Victor Hallstrom was only part of the problem. The real threat was someone who had been quietly manipulating events from the beginning. Nathaniel realized that fighting betrayal directly would put Scarlett in danger. His enemies knew she was the one person who could affect his decisions. As long as she remained connected to him, she would always be a target. So Nathaniel made the most painful choice of his life. He allowed the world to believe he was gone. He allowed his enemies to believe they had won. And he allowed his own daughter to believe he had left her. Not because he wanted to abandon her, because he wanted her to have a chance at a normal life. Scarlett finally understood the truth behind every unexplained memory. The moments when her father seemed distracted were not signs of distance. They were signs of someone carrying a burden he could never share. The late nights, the sudden disappearances, the warnings to stay away from certain people. Everything had a reason. Nathaniel had spent years protecting Scarlett without allowing her to know she needed protection. Dominic Ravello confirmed what Scarlett had slowly begun to realize. Nathaniel was not remembered because of fear. He was remembered because of loyalty. Many people had followed him because he gave them something rare in their world, a reason to believe there could be rules even among powerful criminals. That was why Dominic protected his name. That was why Victor wanted to destroy his legacy. The truth was more dangerous than any weapon. It proved that Nathaniel Voss was not a man who ran away from his enemies. He was a man who sacrificed everything to make sure they could never reach his daughter. With the truth finally revealed, Scarlett no longer saw herself as a daughter of a man who disappeared. She saw herself as a person chosen to finish what he started. But before she could decide what to do with the legacy her father left behind, she discovered one final message hidden beneath the documents. A message Nathaniel had saved for the moment when she learned everything. And the first words on the page revealed that even after all these years, her father still had one secret left to tell her. The final message from Nathaniel Voss changed the way Scarlett saw her entire journey. After years of searching for answers, she finally understood that the truth was never only about where her father went. It was about why he had to leave. Nathaniel had known that one day Scarlett would discover everything. He knew she would question the story she was told, search for the missing pieces, and eventually uncover the world he had spent years trying to keep away from her. But he also knew something else. Scarlett was stronger than the life he tried to protect her from. Sometimes a person's greatest inheritance is not wealth or power. It is the truth they were trusted to carry when everyone else chose to hide it. The message explained that Nathaniel never wanted Scarlett to inherit his empire. He never wanted her to become part of a world built on fear and control. What he wanted was for her to understand why he made the choices he made. He wanted her to know that his legacy was never the organization, the influence, or the power people associated with his name. His true legacy was the ability to choose differently. Scarlett realized that her father had spent his entire life trying to create something better inside a world that rarely allowed kindness or loyalty to survive. He knew mistakes had been made. He knew the empire carried darkness. But he also believed that someone could change its direction. That someone was now her. The revelation forced Scarlett to make a decision that nobody expected. She could walk away. She could leave the dangerous world behind and return to the quiet life she once wanted. Or she could accept the responsibility her father trusted her with and use the truth to prevent the same mistakes from happening again. Dominic Ravello watched her choice carefully. For years, he had followed Nathaniel because he believed in his vision. Now he saw the same determination in Scarlett. Not because she wanted power, but because she understood the cost of it. That was what made her different. She was not trying to become another Nathaniel Voss. She was trying to honor the man behind the name. As Scarlett stepped into the future, the people who once underestimated her began seeing her differently. She was no longer the daughter searching for a lost father. She was the person who uncovered the truth everyone else was afraid to face. The empire that once depended on fear began changing. Old traditions were questioned. Old alliances were tested. The name Nathaniel Voss no longer represented a hidden criminal past. It represented a choice to protect instead of destroy, a choice to remember instead of repeat. But even after everything was revealed, one mystery remained. Among Nathaniel's final belongings was one unopened file that Scarlett had not yet examined. It carried a date from after the day the world believed Nathaniel Voss died, and inside that file was a final secret that suggested her father's story might not have ended when everyone thought it did.